1, 2, 3, 4.
In this podcast, you will be here. Knights of Vader, Knights of Vader includes, but is not limited to, talk of Star Wars, not Reagan's. We can't truly prepare for the joke that follows this song, but hey, we gave it a try. So here's the Knights of Vader. Crystal Fox report they are divided. Prequel, sequel, and love they fight. I know that we are just musicians hired, and their time is up. So here's the Knights of Vader.
Impressive. Most impressive.
A big thank you to An Insperiority Complex providing our theme song. It is April 27th, 2023.
What?
Hey guys, Chris here. Yeah, I may have misplaced this episode for a while, but the good thing is we're going to get back at it soon with an Indy 5 discussion and hopefully a show about Jedi Survivor after that. I'm patiently waiting for Zack to finish the game so we can talk about it. Even though this one's getting a little old, we had some wholesome, evergreen discussion as usual, so enjoy the show.
My name is Zach Weber, and I am joined by not Katana insider Chris Porteous.
Hey, happy to be here. There's a lot to talk about that is far more interesting than the third saga of Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. And joining us is, for I am the destroyer of retail, Joe Yazzo.
Hello, great to be back. Somehow Knights of Vader has returned.
Ba-da-ba. Yes, folks, so much has happened since our last recording. The last topic was space baptism at the Gator Pond, and we were all severely underwhelmed. Now we are, 6 weeks richer in Star Wars news and content, and instead of being underwhelmed, we are whelmed. A very firm whelmed I'm feeling. Like, I'm not disappointed. I just feel like, okay, it's a Star Wars fan. Some ups, some downs from Celebration, which Chris attended. Jedi Fallen Order 2 still falling, coming out tomorrow or tonight, depending on where you live. So that's exciting. Good things I'm hearing about that game. Really no spoilers. Like, it seems to be like almost what you would hope, like best case scenario is that like, oh, it's solid, good entertainment. There's really nothing hyperbolic coming out about it. Nothing like this is the greatest thing, the greatest Star Wars content since The Empire Strikes Back, which is the default reaction that the fandom gives to everything that they like. Refreshing to see something be a little more nuanced. We have a Ahsoka trailer from Celebration. We have Star Wars Visions Volume 2 coming out in about a week and a half maybe. So yeah, and then we have movie announcements that most likely will never happen. Like Joe Yazzo, I'm pretty sure he can like attest to this at work. I forgot that it being in Europe, it was a full 6 hours ahead of us on the East Coast of America. And I forgot. So at 8:30, I'm logging into social media and I'm seeing all these announcements. I'm like, oh my God, it's like I'm literally running into work. Think Ebenezer Scrooge just being like, it's Christmas. Everyone's like, so when are these movies coming out? And I'm like, they're most likely never coming out, but hey, it's provocative. And as I go around just beating everybody's door down, telling them about this.
Spaghetti on the
It's true. It actually happened. I there's so much to delve into. I really don't know where to begin. I don't think any of the movies are going to happen. I genuinely don't think a single one of those. I think the not episode 10 is not going to happen because way too early to make episode 10 without calling it episode 10. Dawn of the Jedi, that's DOA as an idea. And Mandoverse simply because they realize they can sell big whiskey toys. Like that has the best chance, but all it's going to take is one bad season of Ahsoka or Skeleton Crew, and that will go down the tubes immediately. Like this is all precarious at best.
I do kind of like as much as Mando season 3 has left me somewhat whelmed, as you said. I kind of like the idea of them sort of finishing off that show with a movie because I feel like culturally we don't do movies with TV show casts anymore. Like it seems like something that has been sort of determined that is like a lowbrow activity and hasn't been done for a long time. So usually it's like a reimagining with a different cast for a feature film in the last couple decades, it seems. So I like it.
What's the last movie TV show? Entourage or Veronica Mars? Or is there one I'm forgetting?
I guess I don't watch that stuff, so I don't know.
Neither do I,
two.
but like it's funny. I never thought of that before. Like TV shows ending with a movie. Like I'm trying to think of some of the more Joe. What's a high profile TV show ending with a movie?
I would probably say, if anything, probably Firefly.
I was gonna say Serenity, but like
Yeah.
even that, like that was niche during the initial release of the series. That was niche in 2005 when that movie came out. Like it has its following, but I still think niche, and that's the same thing I would say for Entourage and Veronica Mars.
The only other thing I could think of is the Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah, that's fair, but that's Star Trek's isn't. Yes, but that's an entirely separate beast. But that is probably the most comparable to this.
Until the TV show came back.
I know. That was fabulous. It was amazing. I watched all of it when it came out.
Season 3.
Season 3, yeah.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Zach, me and Joe are watching Star Trek, just so you know.
I know. Joe tells me about Picard, and he's like, Zach, it's good. I'm like, I know the internet keeps telling me this, but I don't know if it's because the Star Trek fans are so beaten down at this point.
It is.
They've just learned they're just happy to have like okay content after.
I would have been happy if season 3 was season 1 of Picard and they just stopped it at that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
a real shame that's not what they did. Yeah.
You guys remember Mad TV? They had the segment called Lowered Expectations. Like that's like I'm hearing that little chime right now. Lowered expectations.
Well,
like,
it wasn't actually that bad, but it was just like, I think the main thing Picard season 3 suffers from is like Patrick Stewart being in his 80s. That's pretty much the main thing it suffers from. But like I was saying, I like the idea they're going to finish Mando with a movie because something narratively relevant might actually happen in the movie, especially if it's the end of the show.
Will he actually have character growth this time, as opposed to not having really any serious character growth since fall of 2020?
Or they might just kill him.
Well, the other thing, too, is I think there is serious character development this season. You can't discount that.
Please elaborate on that.
The domestication of Din Djarin is very, very character-driven. He's not a
But he doesn't,
anymore.
But think about it. Everything that he did at the end of season 2, taking his helmet off in front of Big Whiskey and all that, like, if we begin Mandalorian season 2.5, aka the Book of Boba Fett, with him being told, like, yeah, everything he did at the end of season 2, like, you got to kind of undo that now. And there's no him coming to terms with, like, keeping his helmet on. And then even the whole thing with the armor, it's like, yeah, Bo-Katan can take her helmet off because she's really not part of our cult.
She walks between two worlds.
Well, the real reason she can take her helmet off is because she's Katie Sackhoff.
Yes.
And also because, come on, Pedro Pascal is actually not on set, so he can't take his helmet off.
Fair. Even that because I was reading something that because he didn't take his helmet off this season, I have no idea if this is true or not, he was only paid a like voice actor's fee, like a voice actor's fee. Like he wasn't paid like as an actor because technically he did not show his face at all.
I believe it because John Wayne Jr. is credited on every episode. So yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting. Because again, apparently they were good-ish film. Again, this is all allegedly got put allegedly in front of all this. That final shot was going to be him with his helmet off, but apparently there was scheduling conflicts with Last of Us, so they didn't have time for that. But I'm like, how hard is it to CGI someone's head onto a body? Like they do that all the time.
They've been doing it they did it with Christopher Lee in 2002, man. It's not
That's
that
what
hard.
I mean. Yeah. Like if they wanted to do that, they could have, and they chose not to.
Yeah. Well, it would require an explanation because, like, I'm pretty sure, like, now that Din Grogu is officially a Mandalorian, he's not allowed to take his helmet off around him. Either you get tattled on.
Why can't
go back to jail?
Why can't Din Big Whiskey sit there? Like, why isn't he wearing a helmet?
Because he can't speak the creed yet, Zach. Did you even watch this?
I did.
Show?
He can't speak the creed, but like it doesn't matter because like he's 50 years old and they made it work. Like the mental gymnastics and the bathing of the living waters of Mandalore and like the amount of eye rolling during all that.
It's like they know where it is. It's actually colonized again, Mandalore. He can go back and just be like, I'm going for a dip. I took my helmet off. Sorry, I'm going to take the creed over again, and that's it.
Is that what atonement is? It's a car wash, essentially. Just every single time you get a little dirty, just go right through it, right back.
He goes into the pond. He gets a little.
Is this
wet.
like going to confession at church? Like you can sin all you want, just go in on Sunday and just clean the slate. Like, is it really that passive of a process?
the armor is going to be taking indulgences. It'd be like, you can find the way if you pay me this much money.
That's so funny, doesn't that? Like, that kind of makes sense because, like, it probably would be like a cyclical ritual when they lived on Mandalore. But then if you think about like what a pain the armor is being by demanding that he do that when the planet's like a nuclear meltdown and like they don't even know if they can safely go there. She's like, this thing we used to just do every Sunday that you can't do anymore. You have to do that or you're not allowed back in the club. It's just. It's pretty
I'm pretty
rough.
sure that's a cult. You just described a cult.
Yeah.
And they're like I don't know, like do we want to just briefly talk about each episode of this season that we didn't cover last week, quote unquote last week?
If you can remember like the defining moments of
I'm gonna have to look it up. Like that's the problem.
Oh boy.
I'm pretty sure I can do that for seasons 1 and 2 off the top of my head, but I can't do it for the thing that happened in the last 2 months.
Right. Well,
all I know is that Jack Black showed up at one point, and it was the closest we've ever gotten to the holiday special. And I'm like, we were this close to greatness.
I've been watching the season with my daughter, and she goes, Dad, that's Lizzo, and that's Jack Black. I think he's doing it because the Mario Brothers movie is coming out this weekend. I'm like, probably. I think so. She was like, this is the most amazing episode I've ever seen. And she like watches all the Star Wars stuff now. I wish that I could get her out of bed right now and tell her to come down and get a pair of headphones on and talk because she is through the moon about this show right now.
Wow. I mean, the first 2 minutes of that show were like the calamari and Quarren, like Romeo and Juliet. That was funny.
We have to bring this up because Chris like threw so much shade at Axe Woves. Man, Axe Woves actually had something to do this season. Like that's one talk about character development.
Yeah, but well, he's kind of an idiot though. Like he's just like he's just like he was like, if you look at his appearance just in season 2, you'd think, oh, this guy's pretty respectable. He would never like pointlessly turn on Bo-Katan because the script says so, but then he does, and then he somehow thinks he's a superior leader, and he's got his little. I mean, he did assemble a much better like vagrant band of pirates than Bo-Katan had. To be fair, like by the time she went to reclaim control of that, he did have a good number of assets compared to her. So I don't know. It just seemed like he's a little bit of a turncoat. Like what does she do to make those two leave, because she had no prospects of having the Darksaber before then anyways, and they were still around. So
can we please talk about like just the handing off of the Darksaber and how like it feels like Harry Potter level with like the wands, with like, well, technically Voldemort wasn't the true owner of the Elder Wand because it was Malfoy who had it, and he's the one who technically disarmed Snape, even though Voldemort killed Snape. Like, it's like, oh my God. Like, this is like, again, I just don't know what's happening in this writer's room.
Yeah.
I just like, it's that level of just, it's like, well, technically the Bo-Katan's the true ruler of the Darksaber because she killed Discount General Grievous and he disarmed me.
Here's what's even funnier though, because like in Book of Boba Fett, Favre-Lorian has a duel with the Mandalorian for the Darksaber. So there's one instance that was totally pointless, that it would have been more interesting if he fought Bo-Katan for it at the end of season 2 or in season 3. And then you have this fight between Bo-Katan and Axe Woves that could have just been, Bo-Katan could have just challenged Din in that same exact field and been like, I'm going to beat you in front of all these guys and then get the Darksaber, and then you guys have to listen to me. So you could have just had that exact fight with the two of them, because what happens? Axe Wove doesn't die. He just yields at the end anyways. So like it's literally no stakes whatsoever. So she could have just had a show fight with Din there just for the sake of it, instead of making everyone like groan horribly. But it's not like Din doesn't fight people for no reason and get horribly injured all the time. He does.
Yes. But what happened to all the Book of Boba Fett stuff where like the armorers coaching him, like you can't like resist it, you have to swing with it? Where did all of that go? Like, where was all that? Like he has the Darksaber, and you would swear that they only did that to sell toys, except they had there's no toys of it there's no posters at Walmart of it. Like him getting the Darksaber was almost like a waste. It was just there to be a provocative notion at the end of season 2, and it's erased by the end of season 3.
The cycle of Darksaber toys has already come and gone. There was a bunch, Zach.
Well, sure, but I'm not saying about the Darksaber as a toy itself. I mean, just giving it to not Boba Fett. Like that's like giving it to him almost means nothing. It would have been more interesting at the end of season 2 instead of Moff Gideon having it being disarmed. Wouldn't it have been more interesting to have it destroyed then? It's like, okay, who's a true ruler of Mandalore now? It's like this guy who like illegally, quote unquote, took custody of it, and it was destroyed under his thing. So like what happens? And it becomes like this weird power vacuum, and you have all these people claiming, like, I don't know, like, and there's so much more they could have done with all of this. And it just feels hollow. And that's where it goes back to being whelmed. Like there was no way they were going to be able to top Luke Skywalker showing up. They were never going to top that. And they knew that. So they went into this season just being like, how can we just spin plates? This was their version of Iron Man 2. Like this was table setting for bigger and better things. We're going to look back at this season 10 years from now and be like, oh, even the beginning of chapter 7 with like Captain Paleon, and you sit there, have Brendel Hux, the father of the spy. Like everyone keeps wondering who were the 2 spies from, what was it? Episode 6, chapter 6, was it?
I thought it was 7, but I don't know.
Okay. But everybody keeps wondering who were the 2 spies. One of them was Lady Imperial Remnant, and the other one was General Hux's father, the spy's father. That's a deep cut for like people listening 3 years ago. But that's the thing, is that like that beginning of chapter 7 of season 3 was more provocative than pretty much the remaining minutes of the season. Like the idea of, again, like we finally get to see Captain Paleon. It's like, well, Grand Admiral Thrawn, like I want more TIE interceptors and I want the Praetorian Guard. And it's like, okay, like clearly, again, this is all table setting. This is Nick Fury showing up to Iron Man at the donut place and being like, I have bigger things happening in the New Mexico desert right now. It's like, can we make this interesting first before we table set for other things?
Yeah.
Even then, at the end of the day, no one's going to remember any of this 10 years from now.
Yeah, Paleon looked real funny to me. Like it looked like they were trying so hard to make him look how he does in the comics, and it's like he just looked like he was wearing like a fake mustache or something. Like he looked really off to me. I don't know. It looked like he was like a 30-year-old guy like playing a 70-year-old guy with like fake like hardware on there. I don't know, something weird, something off-putting about it. But yeah, it's just like the council of references and memorabilias, and then like. Obviously, we haven't seen the last of Moff Gideon, and most likely what'll happen is that if you go back and play it back frame by frame, as that lab is blowing up, you probably see a naked, force-sensitive Giancarlo Esposito like running out of there before the whole place blows up. And he's going to be super Moff Gideon next season. He's got force powers because it was me one of those clones that escaped or something. It's just irresistible. They can't help themselves, but I don't know if I don't know if that's like narratively satisfying in any way, because it's essentially a new character.
It's not like he's not like, even like people who like The Mandalorian as a TV show, like Moff Gideon is like, he's an underwhelming villain. He hasn't done anything of value. He's never succeeded at anything. The closest he's come to succeeding is that the Dark Troopers kidnapped Big Whiskey in season 2. And that was it. Like he's never been a potent villain. And that's where like you can tell also, because again, like whether it be posters, merchandise, he's kind of nowhere. Like nobody, like I'm not doubting that there's cosplays of him, but he's not a fan favorite figure. Like he's just not.
Yeah.
And it's not the actor's fault.
He never got cooler than when he cut himself out of a TIE fighter. And
exactly.
That was the peak. Yeah.
Joe, what do you think on all this? Like, are you excited? Are you?
When he flew down with the black Beskar armor on, with the almost like the crown on his helmet, that was pretty decent. And if I was into getting action figures, I'd probably want that one with the removable
They'll
helmet.
never exist. Yeah,
that's gonna be the HasLab from 20 years from now.
Hey, we have a Trapper Wolf X-Wing helmet. They can very realistically make like a Boba Fett, not Boba Fett, a Mandalorian with like the little spiky things. They'll make that mold at some point, Chris,
Yeah.
and they'll sell it like 20 times because they'll be like, oh, Clone Wars, like Maul Loyalist Mandalorian. Then like the Gar Saxon, like Mandalorian helmet. Like they'll market it a few times. They'll get their money out of that mold.
They did already make the Darth Maul helmet Mandalorian. Yeah, for TVC. I don't know how close the helmet is though, but I guess they just paint it black and say close enough.
It's like what they did with that Black Series Jesse Trooper where it has like the little rangefinder. And it's like, did Hasbro even look at the character at one point? Like you could have not put that rangefinder in there and people would have been happy. Like you put an extra piece that nobody wants.
Yeah, I didn't know my Jesse well enough to get outraged by that, but
I don't care either, but I like that they included an extra piece where Hasbro, I think about that. Like if you're like producing even only 5,000 of those figures, that little extra plastic piece, even if it's a fraction of a cent, still unnecessarily adds up.
yeah, but like also there's probably some reason why it was easier for them not to change like a production procedure of some kind where there's like, just tell the factory that same part from like 18 months ago. Don't change anything. It costs too much to change anything. Something like that.
We already got the file of it. We got the mold.
Exactly.
So, okay. What was there a standout chapter from this season for everybody?
I mean, you kind of have to say the cameo fiesta, just because it's like as stupid as it is, it's probably the most memorable thing.
But it's not even cameos. Like Captain, like think about it. We've reached a point where Brendel Hux and Captain Palion are probably the most exciting thing from this season.
Oh, I was talking about the Christopher Lloyd, Lizzo, Jack Black episode.
Oh, that.
Yeah. I think that's the culturally defining moment of season 3, just because of it's like, there's nothing happened in the story. So you just remember the time everyone got mad that Lizzo was allowed to be in Mandalorian with a criminal record. Even though Gina Carano was canceled for a tweet or something, but that's the defining cultural moment of the season. Zach.
I will say, hearing Christopher Lloyd say "in Count Dooku was right" was kind of funny. Like it's just like,
oh no, he says, get it right, Zack. He says Count Dooku was a visionary.
Like, how do you make that up? Like that, like how is that? Like that is just as clunky as I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough, and it gets everywhere. That is the equivalent of that.
I had the distinct pleasure. So while I drove with some buddies down to the Chicago Toy Show last week, and I had the distinct pleasure of telling a guy who was completely checked out of season 3, guess what? Christopher Lloyd shows up, and here's an actual thing that he says: Count Dooku was a visionary, and this guy's like, you are beyond making this up, but I'm not going to watch it anyway. It was amazing.
See, that's the correct answer. You still don't get tempted by it. See, that's what happens when the snake tried giving the apple to Eve, and Eve was said, "No, thank you, I pass." Like that's the correct way. I don't believe you, but I still don't want to indulge. Like,
yeah,
resisting temptation to the highest levels.
Exactly.
I don't know, Joe. Like you said, your daughter liked the Cameo Fest, as Chris is calling it. What did you think of Cameo Fest?
Like Chris, it didn't move the story. It was very nice to see, Christopher Lloyd there. I thought that was nice to see as a cameo. Jack Black, I could have, he didn't need to be there. Neither did Lizzo.
I did like the rest of that episode. The whole a section where they're going to find all the crazy droids and the droid bar and the B1 and super battle droids malfunctioning. That was good stuff, man. That, I thought that was entertaining. Did it have anything to do with any overarching narrative of the show? Absolutely not. But it was cool to see some droids getting some interesting screen time. And it's but if you can't analyze it too much, because what the heck was Christopher Lloyd's big plan? He didn't like Jack Black, therefore he was causing civil unrest. He was crashing taxis and stuff. It's not doing a whole lot of damage. I think they said that no one had died.
Or there was just a nuisance and people were getting scared. And it was also he could sit there and make it so the people would have to do things for themselves like they did before instead of relying on droids.
Oh yeah, they got too decadent. Yeah, but it was cool seeing Christopher Lloyd, but he kind of suffers from the same thing as Patrick Stewart, where once you're in your 80s, your ability to deliver lines in a way that is understandable to the audience goes down to some degree. And it's just you hate to see it, but it's they could have probably done some more takes or something. But I found it a little bit distracting.
The one the one episode that really stuck to me when I watched it, and I thought it was like, wow, this is pretty cool, is when they off Dr. Pershing.
Did they off him, or he just like, is he like brain melted now?
He brain melted. They killed him off.
I don't think you've seen the last of them, but the way they're structuring this is appalling, because it's like, okay, somewhere in season 2, he gets captured at the end, I guess, second and last episode. Then we get 1 hour long like wheel spinning update on him here, and then what? Now we're gonna wait like a year or 2 to find out. Like I'm guessing he gets eventually re-picked up by like Mando and the boys, and he's gonna be somehow integral to defeating Force sensitive clone Moff Gideon. But like, how long do we have to wait for this like generic thing to play out, man? I don't know.
Well, is this okay, this is the thing then. This kind of ties it into the Ahsoka trailer. Like, Heir to the Empire. Are we going to get like cloned mad Jedi? Like, is that going to be part of this too? Is that like,
You already saw him.
like, clearly Heir to the Empire is happening. Like, they're doing Heir to the Empire without calling it Heir to the Empire.
Yeah, without all the good characters, but they're doing it.
But that's what I mean, and that's where, again, like, kind of the segue into the, like, I will say that out of all the announcements and everything over the last like 2 months, the Ahsoka trailer got me excited, man. Like I said, like I always gauge my Star Wars excitement by how much I want to buy merchandise after consuming marketing materials or media. And dude, that was just like, I'm like, it gives me that feeling of like, what I recognize things, but I have no idea what direction it's going in.
Yeah, I like that. I thought the trailer for Ahsoka looked really good, and like, I don't know who this sort of generic dark Jedi dude. This looks kind of cool, and he's got an awesome lightsaber that looks like early Darth Vader design with like a with like a disc at the bottom, and it's like kind of orange and not red. I don't know. There's something about the way they sort of rendered the lightsaber looked really cool in that trailer. But you know, I mean, I like the cynic in me. You know, when you see, what's the name of the Jedi droid that shows up at the end where he's like, it's
a Huang,
really?
Huang? What?
I'm talking about the droid at the end who's like the lightsaber droid.
Yeah, David Tennant. His name's like Huang.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
It's like Huyang. Yeah, it's like Huyang.
That's just like some guy's first name, so I don't know why droid is called that. But like,
I'm sorry, Greg was taken that day. They're naming characters in the Lucasfilm offices in like 2009.
This would be so much more like, oh man, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but you know, it's just the truth. Like, how much more impactful would that trailer be, and how much more excited would I be if I didn't know how the future of that timeline played out?
I think this is going to be so divorced from that.
I don't.
Because again, no. This is the thing. I think it's going to be so divorced. Like, it's going to be what Mandalorian was with the Praetorian Guard. Like, you're going to have your sprinkled in moments of sequel trilogy, but it's going to be that, like, think about, Chris. In 2015, remember how much of a big deal the Battle of Jakku was? Remember how big of a deal the Battle of Jakku was. And now, like, think about that. This has all occurred, and we're 3 seasons into The Mandalorian, and we've never heard the word Jakku once. And that was supposed to be like the biggest battle of the entire galaxy, because you literally had like the sky on fire. An entire desolate planet was inhabited because there was so much money to be made off of it.
But wasn't it? So I don't know. Maybe you know off the top of your head, but like isn't the Battle of Jakku something like 6 or 7 years after Return of the Jedi?
No, it's 1 year after Battle of Endor. Actually, you know what? I bought something a couple days ago. I'm going to go get it. It's going to be for reference sake.
Okay. Well, I thought that it was I thought the Battle of Jakku was much later than that. So I guess it happens on or before. It happens before even season 1 of Mandalorian. So that's interesting. Joe, do you remember what the Battle of Jakku is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the end of the Galactic Civil War.
Do you know how you know that?
Because of the Battlefront 2.
Okay, that's a good. I don't know how I know that, but I guess I know it.
They had to explain why Rey was going on Jakku, harvesting Star Destroyers.
Yeah, the Battle of Jakku exists because someone made concept art for the beginning of The Force Awakens, where there's like crashed ships on a desert. That's why the Battle of Jakku exists. They had to retroactively justify the set All right. So what did you go and get, Zach?
All right, I want the audience to know because I kind of talked about this a couple episodes ago. The Star Wars Timelines book, like they announced it years ago. I've made jokes that it would never be released because it kept being indefinitely delayed until Tuesday evening. I was on my phone and I see someone like with a picture of it. I'm like, oh my God, did that finally get released? And next thing I know, my Barnes and Noble had it. So bought it in store. And like things dense. Like I really have only got it 2 days ago, but like I only gotten up to like the Battle of Naboo. So when Chris is like talking about like the timeline of all this, and this is officially sanctioned Lucasfilm nonsense, but there's an entire page about the looming shadow showdown. Man, I can't talk today. From 5 ABY. I should say for Chris, the entire book is done in ABY as God intended. And yeah. Oh God, some of these names I don't even know at this point because I think they're from like there's a lot of Alphabet Squadron in this like page.
So it's all canon, right? There's no reference to like Legends material?
No Legends at all.
Okay.
Yurika Quell, now reinstated with the Empire, but secretly providing intelligence to the New Republic, races to stop the slaughter of thousands of civilians on Coruscant. A scouting mission discovers the Imperial fleet is massing at Jakku, but convincing politicians to act runs into problems. Meanwhile, Sith artifacts fall into the hands of a dark side extremist who uses them to launch attacks on New Republic targets. And of course, you have Operation Cinder. During a small engagement between the Yadis and 3 ex-Imperial Gazanti cruisers, Quell spots another chance to send a coded message. Sensing she is being watched, she turns and fires, destroying one of the Emperor's messenger droids. All right, the contingency. This is all 5 ABY. Okay, Gallius Rax begins executing the final step of the Emperor's plan. Rax is to lure the Imperial and New Republic fleets to Jakku, then eliminate them both by destroying the planet. Where is this now?
How much of this do you think is just copy and pasted from Wikipedia? Sorry.
I was just about to say Wikipedia. I don't know, to be honest with you.
The nice thing about Wikipedia compared to that book is like it actually says like what media like each piece of information came from.
Damn. Like there's an entire spread, like I'm not kidding you, like almost like a splash page for the Battle of Jakku. Man, you gotta give it. Like I know, like there's cynicism about like the sequel trilogy time period, but like you gotta give credit where credit is due. Yeah, okay. Battle of Jakku, 5 ABY. The very next page is a picture of the Mandalorian. Again, like it's hard to do this while holding the microphone, but I'm going to hold it up to the camera. Like here is your Battle of Jakku like page, 5 ABY. Very next page, 6 ABY. The New Republic, and it's the Mandalorian. So like the Mandalorian is very much in a post Battle of Jakku world, and we've not heard it referenced once. Like even like it's kind and part of it too. And this is where you get into your like your ancillary media. Where is Grand Admiral Ray Sloan? Like they released a Lego minifig of her, so you would assume she's coming down the pike at some point.
This is a Battlefront character, right?
No, she's from the books.
Okay, but she's I thought she's in Battlefront too. Maybe I'm
no. Well, technically she's at the Battle of Jakku, which is in Battlefront 2, but like no, this has solely been a book character and like comic character, from what my understanding is. Speaking of Wikipedia.
All right. Well, it's interesting that they choose a 2-page spread of the Mandalorian to represent the dawn of the New Republic. It's highly inappropriate, but I guess we'll take what we can get.
I will say, like, and there are points in this where it says like estimated versus like concrete dates. It says, oh God, Poe Dameron. I see the word Poe Dameron next to Din Djarin, and it's very funny.
That's where Filoni wants to like leave wiggle room for when he decides that the ending of Rebels takes place 30 years after the rest of the show.
Yes. Well, that's what I will say that there are points that say estimated, so it's giving themselves wiggle room, because like this book is just like a logistical nightmare for anybody who has to like lay anything out. But yes, 9 ABY, fateful meeting. Mandalorian bounty hunter Din Djarin recovers the alien Grogu during a routine job.
The alien.
Din's encounter with Grogu turns him against the Bounty Hunters Guild after he violates its code and refuses to give Grogu up to the client, Capital, who paid for him. So you are talking, again, 9 ABY for the Big Whiskey, and the Battle of Jakku was 5 ABY. So you're talking a 4-year gap there. 5 years since Return of the Jedi. So that is something that is in writing per publishing.
I guess it makes you wonder if the Ahsoka show is going to like jump around time period wise, or if it's all definitively like right after the Mandalorian.
I don't know, like, 'cause, like, there's literally an entire splash page again about Operation Cinder. After Endor, I'm trying to see if I can find something for the ending of Rebels.
It just seems like unless that like I was saying, unless that ending of Rebels is like way off, it really seems like Ahsoka and the Rebels gang just messed around for years and did nothing.
Chris, there's an entire 2-page spread about Boba Fett and like his like misadventures with the Tusken Raiders.
Oh.
Like, okay, we should like Chris has always for years now been pressuring me for the Patreon, but the closest we ever come to it is the idea of buying this book and just having Chris react to like pages of it, just being like, why are you going into detail like this? Why is there so much information on something that doesn't matter? War of the Bounty Hunters, man, this thing is dense.
My reaction would be like Hank Hill when Bobby does like dancing class or something. Like that's what I would sound like while I read that book. But I don't know, man. Like I don't think I'd be surprised if there were any like actual insightful nuggets in there leading towards any of the upcoming media. It's probably well sanitized.
You'd be surprised. Like I said, I've barely scratched the surface for this thing, but there are like at the very beginning stuff about like Dawn of the Jedi. It's all estimated, but there is stuff that says Dawn of the Jedi. So clearly, again, it might be the equivalent of, again, Empire's End Aftermath book, where it's like, oh, Thrawn, Palpatine only kept Thrawn around for his understanding of the unknown regions, and some like Palpatine will return one day. It could be all just like scattershot seeding, but I don't know. I do think they have some vision. I think they're just kind of like they trip over themselves.
I think they're starting to feel the reality of the fact that the available time periods they have to play with, like between the trilogies, are sort of getting filled up in their first 10 years of creating content. And the idea that they're sort of committed to everything being canon really sort of puts everything in a pretty sort of restrictive grid.
Okay, I'm trying to find a page on Rebels. I haven't found one yet.
Yeah, well, that's definitely not going to put a definitive date on the like ending of Rebels when they decide to like go find Ezra. So,
well, no, I know, I'm not the definitive ending, but I'm curious, like what ABY or technically, yeah, ABY. No, it'd be BBY. Okay, let me see.
It almost looks like from the trailers of Ahsoka it's coming out after the season. The last scene of Rebels, because it has the same ships, it has the same almost type of scenery in it.
Yeah, except for in the end of Mandalorian season 3, you have Paleon and the Imperial Council like sort of describing Thrawn's return. So like that sort of places it like squarely like the next day after season 3 of Mando, if it's all about Thrawn coming back.
Okay, so I did find something again. The World Between Worlds. Lothal Jedi Temple, interrogation.
Yeah, for the listeners, Zack is really doing Bible study right now. He's got the book out on a big pedestal.
Verse, Armitage Hux, General born on Arcanus. Just in case anybody's wondering, General Hux's father was born 1 BBY, which is really fascinating. Armitage is General Hux. I'm sorry. I'm losing track of names. Of
all the indignities done in Mandalorian Season 3, reminding
right?
us that Hux is a real person in the canon.
Yeah, so message from, sorry for everybody, I'm trying to read and keep my face at the mic with this giant book at the same time. Message from Ezra. This is 1 BBY. The Ghost Crew listens to a message from Ezra where he says goodbye and tells him he can't wait to come home. Lothal celebration. Lothal citizens cheer as they turn against the remaining Imperial troops. Obviously, the season 4 finale. Evolution of the TIE Fighter. Talking about like the TIE Dagger. Interesting.
So they just avoid their little mission at the end. Then,
from what I can tell, like it's keeping it very broad because it's saying Rogue One obviously is 1 BBY, and that's, you can make the argument days BBY before
They don't get any more specific than years, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
No, 1 BBY. So you could make it the Battle of Scarif as 1 BBY, where, again, realistically, and then you go into Age of Rebellion, which it's interesting they're going back to that again. That was like a pre-Rise of Skywalker like timeline. So the argument could be made that the Battle of Lothal and Scarif could be happening. What? Because Scarif is happening, and the Ghost is there. So Lothal happens before Scarif.
2 days. Yeah, Scarif is like less than a week before the Battle of Yavin.
But I mean, those relative to the Battle of Lothal, like where Ezra goes off with Thrawn.
Yeah, I feel like
I don't expect them to define anything now because obviously that's good. That is a hotly contested topic. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wonder if there's an index. Oh my God, Chris! The last page is Rey Skywalker with her lightsaber.
Oh, geez.
See, episode 10. See, somebody in publishing knew what they were doing, man. Someone. Oh, it does have an index.
Should have the adventure continues right on that page.
It should have like a little note section that says fill in the dots for where things will inevitably change.
Place where you can put your pictures and tape and index cards. Like a scrapbook.
Rey Skywalker will return.
It's going to be a Mad Lib. They're going to have you turn it in. Be like, you can write a script for us.
They find a Sentinel droid from the Aftermath books, Chris. What's Sabine's first name? No, Wren. Sabine Wren. So that'd be under W. Female Boba Fett, Chris. There's a difference. Family reunion.
Not Boba Fett the Fourth.
TIE Defender Factories, Rebel Alliance. Let's see, 167.
Yeah. Artistically inclined Boba Fett.
This is like again, like going back to like OG Knights of Vader when Mark would just like pull a book out and just make the poor audience just sit here as he like furls their pages.
Dude, Rebels is such a fever dream to me. Like, you remember that time Sabine was like 14, but also like Oppenheimer and made a machine that like melted Mandalorians like inside their armor and just like horribly killed them, and that was a plot line in that show. What the heck was that? I will say, like, this is something to keep this is like a call to action for the audience at home, not for the greater good, but just for like in your social circles, in your real life. Try to explain to people what episodes they need to watch of Rebels before Ahsoka. And you'll go out of your mind because there's so much that is like in Rebels that's tied to Clone Wars. Like every episode of Rebels that's required viewing, I would imagine for Ahsoka requires probably 7 for every one Rebels episode, probably requires 6 Clone Wars episodes to firmly explain what's happening. That's because Disney like jerked around Filoni. Like, he never knew, like, you know, he thought, oh man, I didn't want Clone Wars to get canceled, but you know, corporate nonsense. So I guess I'll tie up some of those plot lines in Rebels, since that'll be the only chance I'll ever get. Psych, you get to continue Clone Wars and do live action shows with the same characters. So he is doing redundant plot lines now, because the stuff he did in Rebels, he is just reoccurring in later shows like Clone Wars Season 7 and the live action shows, because now he can do it again and he has to find something else for these characters to do. He probably thought that Rebels was going to be it for those characters, and that's why you have all those Clone Wars connections.
Apparently, when Kenobi kills Maul on Tatooine, it is 2 BBY. Chris, did you know in 2 BBY estimated, Amilyn Holdo takes command of the Kandor after its captain dies during an attack by a Star Destroyer? Her innovative plan allows the ship to escape capture.
That cool. You know what I wouldn't have liked if I saw episode 1 and then somebody told me, by the way, Darth Maul dies on Tatooine like 2 years before A New Hope. And it's like, what?
Kind of fascinating when you phrase it that way.
It's like, you mean he didn't just get cut in half and fall down a tube? Wild. I don't know, Zach. I don't think you're going to find the golden nugget in there. What are you looking for?
Well, that's good. That too is good. Like, we should all say too, like, we might not get Luke, but we're going to get something probably equally as stupid as that. Like, that is going to play a think about it. They've been sitting on that nugget now for almost a decade. The idea of like, how'd you get that? A story for another time as Maz Kanata looks directly into the camera. Like, that's another thing too. We're going to get that at some point, and it's going to be clunky as hell, and I can't wait.
I don't know if it's like, I guess they, for that particular one, they have a good amount of time period to play with. They don't have to do that anytime soon. It's you know how that saber's in like a crusty, dusty old trunk, but by the time they get to it, it'll be like Maz Kanata like picked it up like the weekend before Ray showed up.
Swap meet at Maz's castle.
At a garage sale. It was a swap meet. She bought it. She bought it for. She bought it for the box.
Yeah. And can you believe, on our last recording, we were talking about how the Mandalorian was like definitely going to go to Bespin and like deal with some Ugnaughts to get an IG-11 head. Like there was a scene where he was dealing with a bunch of Ugnaughts and it was hilarious, but it wasn't on Bespin.
Yeah. They couldn't afford those sets, Chris.
Those are some
practical effects.
Well, like one of those Ugnaughts was like exactly Queel. They're like, hey, just dust off that other mask and give him bigger eyebrows. It was pretty close. Although I wish they would have done like in Empire when the Ugnaughts like are getting hassled, they make like weird little cat noises. I wish they would have thrown a few of those in there because now they just talk like regular dudes.
Pig people from the Twilight Zone.
And in Rebels, they just literally make pig noises. That's it. They just scream like pigs in Rebels. It's pretty crazy. Now they're just pretty normal.
I kind of like some of the titles they have for things in this book, like the entire Luke thing on the Battle of Crate. Chris, you remember like when that was happening, people were like, what are we calling that? Like a force projection? They actually call it Force Rus. Like
what?
Luke didn't like a Rus. Like it literally says Force Rus.
Really?
34 ABY Force Rus. Luke projects himself through the Force, stalling Kylo Ren on Crate so that Leia and the Resistance can escape. Standing alone against the First Order's might, he becomes a legend that will inspire the galaxy for generations to come. It's great. Force Rus.
Wow. Well, I'm pretty sure...
Man, somebody in publishing was tired that night.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Johnson already pointed to the book where he got that from, and it wasn't called that.
Yeah. 35 ABY, Master's Wisdom. Luke manifests as a Force spirit to counsel Rey when she returns to Ahch-To, guiding her to Leia's lightsaber.
Yeah, all right. Well,
yeah, this book's fascinating.
I'm glad that, look at that, guys. Like, Zack is thoroughly engaged in a new Star Wars product.
That book is interesting, man. Like, that gets, how many pissing contests that book's gonna make? Like, the problem is that, like, I much like me, I like to think I have my finger on the pulse of this stuff. And when I, at like 7 p.m. the night it's released, being like, oh God, this finally came out. There's no hype. There's no, like, anything. It's just, oh yeah, it's out now. And to the point where when you go to like you do an in-store pickup order on Barnes & Noble and they're like, yeah, we were digging around the back like for the last like half an hour looking for this. Then we realized we put it on the shelf and we didn't even realize. It's like, that there is no hype whatsoever, which should be, think about it, Chris, even during like the prequel era, the idea of a timelines book would have been like, oh my God, like that was the biggest thing among Star Wars fans. You too, Joe, you remember like the idea of like, no, this happened before this. And they release a book like this and nobody cares. There's indifference.
Well, there is a really, there's a really good Legends one from like, that's called The Essential Chronology that, that's the real one. You guys should all have that like I do. But that's the one that covers like the Tales of the Jedi. Tales of the Jedi all the way to like, pre-Old Republic all the way to Cade Skywalker. It probably actually came out before Cade Skywalker was a thing, but it covers a good chunk of time there, and it had unique illustrations, not just copy and paste from across Star Wars media, which that new book appears to have. Yeah,
that book's gonna be fun. I look forward to this being like, what is happening right now? There's again, while you guys are talking, I'm like reading like paragraphs, and it's like 3 ABY, it's like 3 BBY. Doc Ondor goes to Jabba's Hutt's palace and collects Ki-Adi-Mundi's lightsaber, and I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? I'm just like clearly there was a comic where that happens,
or it's just on the wall in the park. I don't know.
Is that what it is? And they just need like a little like plaque under it, like the historical thing. It's like 3 BBY. Doc Ondor went to Jabba the Hutt's palace to collect Ki-Adi-Mundi's lightsaber.
The park tie-in stuff is really weird because like how they have the little Sarlacc like in a jar there, and like the first first Galaxy's Edge comic is like Han Solo like delivering the Sarlacc to Doc Ondor. It's like,
oh, okay, that makes sense.
Let's explain like literally every memorabilia in this park in comic book form, because like that makes for a compelling narrative. And also there's like 40 product placements of like food and drink things that you can get in Galaxy's Edge, like within the comic. It's like the most vapid, horrible thing ever. But
Speaking of Galaxy's Edge, I have to ask, as somebody who's been to Galaxy's Edge only once, Navarro is looking really, really like Batu, like shockingly like Batu, to the point where I'm just like, is this the plan to turn Batu into Navarro at some point?
They're both just higher budget Tatooines. Like that's
yes, I get that, but okay, let's put our capitalist like mentality, capitalism. Being able to do Navarro, where you can go visit like Boba Fett's, visit not Boba Fett's cabin on Navarro, would make them a lot of money. And then you can drink at the former school where the pirates tried blowing it up. We should mention the pirates came back and they did actually turn the school into a bar again. like they did it. Like they succeeded. They turned a school into a bar.
How soon do you think that Galaxy's Edge is going to have Din Djarin's homestead with him out there as an animatronic sipping on galaxy lemonade with Grogu and the string on the frog going up and down on a pond? How long?
That's what I mean. It's inevitable.
Was that iconic?
It doesn't matter as long as they can sell. Like, no, but think about this though. Like, you have to think about how Disney does things. Like, go back, and I'm gonna really kind of like go into my Disney history. Like the Norway Pavilion at Epcot, they turned that before they made it into a Frozen ride. Like, they took a portion of it and they made it into like Elsa and Anna meet and greet, and it became like the longest line ever in the park's history. Like something like 7-8 hours just to meet actors in like a wig and a dress. Think about it. They always do this. They pick an area and it becomes like the official meet and greet. Like what they've been doing with like Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, Mandalorian, them walking around the park is not really a thing. Like characters like walking around is a thing, but they always like having them have like a home location. Like even like with Kylo Ren in Galaxy's Edge with his Trevorrow episode 9 like TIE fighter. I could see, and this is the thing I've been saying about Galaxy's Edge ever since I went there. Between Star Tours and Batu, you have the Muppets area, and it's so freaking out of place because it's a relic of a bygone era of that park. That's going to be demolished at some point, and like I was saying, it'll be really easy to put Navarro there, and like Joe said, you build God damn it. You build Din Djarin's cabin and you have a little cute little pond and you go in there and there's a little big whiskey that sits there like bobs up and down as it makes the frog sit there dance. I don't know. Like it seems like that's what they would do. And Navarro's just enough of like a weird transition thing. You could say like, oh, again, Chris, you know your geography of like the Star Tours. Like, oh, Star Tours brought you to Navarro because they did say they're going to be implementing Mandalorian stuff into Star Tours. And can't you imagine that would sit there be its thing like, oh, we're bringing you to Navarro. There's Mandalorian in his M1 Starfighter.
I don't know.
And they think about it, they could have a 1-to-1 of that sitting there of the M1. Like they wouldn't have to do much.
Yeah, well, they'd have to do way more than changing a Millennium Falcon radar dish. So that's why I definitively think it won't happen.
No, what I'm trying to say though is that I don't think they would change the Millennium Falcon. Well, I think I'm revising my theory in real time. They take out the Muppets area and they make that into Navarro. And what they do is you have Boba Fett. God, why do I keep saying that? Like the Freudian slips.
Because those planets are not two different planets, Zach. They're just Joe Disney era Tatooine.
I know. Most Espa is Joe Disney like Tatooine.
Can you imagine how infuriating that would be to like everybody who was like, oh, why didn't they just make Galaxy's Edge Tatooine? Or like I would have settled for Naboo over made up boring planet. Like can you imagine? It's like, okay, so over here we got Batu and over here we got Navarro. What's the difference? Basically nothing.
But Star Tours is Endor.
Yeah, but they're not visually distinct as planets. They're the same planet.
It doesn't matter. Think about it. They could sit there. Think about it. The big thing with Disney is that they don't, if you look at their survey ratings for things, the rides don't typically get high survey ratings because people are mad because they wait online for hours and it's like a mediocre experience relative to what they had to wait for it. What gets the best ratings are the meet and greets because like people are just thrilled to be like, oh my God, I can take my picture with, as Chris once put it, a weekend warrior dressed up as like a character. And That's the thing. You take Muppets out, you make it Navarro, you have his little cabin there, and you have like, much like they have a 1-to-1 of Poe Dameron's Black X-Wing, you have a 1-to-1 of the M1 Starfighter.
It's way easier to just move out the sequel trilogy A-Wing and put Mandalorian Starfighter in that spot. That's way easier.
That A-Wing does not take up a lot of real estate. If they properly do the M1, it would not fit.
The tail will be hanging off the back, but that doesn't matter.
But keep in mind, the Rise of the Resistance is like I'm going to go back to the book. We got to figure out when the
oh my god
Black Spire Outpost is a thing. Like that's going to be like 33, 34 34 ABY.
That's good. Okay, so you're going to have to, don't do it on the call, but you're going to have to go and look at when the narrative content
I'll do it.
The narrative content of Rise of the Resistance takes place and how they
It's probably in there, and I didn't even think to look at that because that's canon. Okay, discuss amongst yourself. I have a case. Okay, just keep discussing. I gotta look into this because this has driven me nuts for years.
Yeah, that time where Rey also fought Kylo Ren for the third or fourth time, but he didn't have the right helmet. But also, they were on a cruise ship. Yeah, I don't know. So Joe, while Zach's doing that, I don't know if you participate in the games. Are you going to get Fallen Order 2?
I haven't played a game since Squadrons.
That's not that long ago. So I'm pretty sure Fallen Order came out before that.
Yeah, I haven't gotten Fallen Order yet.
Okay. So you're not that invested. I mean, it's one of those things where like I feel like if the story gets like positively reviewed, like worst case, if you play it on like the easiest mode that pretty much just like lets you like plow through the game and like you can experience the story, it's probably almost worth the price of admission if it ends up being favorably reviewed, because like I played it on the hardest difficulty and it's just needless torture sometimes. Like you replay the same sections like 100 times just to say you beat it on the hardest difficulty when, nobody cares at all. And at the end of the day, if the story is like better than Mandalorian season 3, you might as well just play it on story mode and get through it in like 2 hours.
That's the thing is the first one actually looked more in line with Forces Unleashed.
Yeah.
So it's the same basic thing.
It's pretty much the same thing, which is interesting because I remember thinking, because like in the early 2000s, there was like 12 Star Wars games like on Xbox, the original Xbox. And then I remember by the time Force Unleashed 1 and 2 came out, I was like, is this the only 2 games we're getting for like this chunk of like 7 years? That's annoying. And, that has persisted where Fallen Order and Fallen Order 2 are the only 2 games we're getting for like 7 years as well. It's just interesting that seems to be the prototypical model they're comfortable with making single player games, a platforming third person Jedi adventure.
It's in here. It's actually in here, and it's kind of insane, like how they break it down. Okay, not to interrupt, not to break in.
Like I can see if they start making a game almost similar to Grand Theft Auto, where you have the Mandalorian. That would be an awesome game where you sit there, have side quests, and you sit there and you beat up a death stick dealer and you rob his money and stuff like that.
Yeah, you'll never get that because they don't want people making clips of the Mandalorian just like lighting up a bunch of civilians on the street. You'll never have that sort of.
Be a good thing. It would that would draw people to it though. It's an open world where you sit there and you get little missions, you get little bounties, you do it. Either dead or alive, you're coming with me. Do it.
They used to let you have a little more freedom in Star Wars games, like the old Jedi Knight games. Like you killed civilians, it actually like pushed you towards the dark side, like, and it affected the ending you got of the game. But
oh yeah, like old school Star Wars Galaxies, man, that thing was amazing. If someone pissed you off in the game, you could sit there and throw a bounty on them.
Yeah, and I mean, even in Knights of the Old Republic, you can do some reprehensible things, like like you'll find some kids like throwing rocks at an alien or something, and you can like just like either like tell the kids to run away, or you can just like electrocute the alien. Like they just they offer you some very weird choices that if you sort of analyzed everything someone did throughout the game, you could probably say something definitive about their psychological state by the end of it. there's probably enough morality plays in there that you could learn about a person. Zach, it can't be more than a paragraph.
It's multiple small paragraphs, but like the timeline of it's all 34 ABY. So like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, but like how they have beat by beat happening, it almost is like mind melting because like it doesn't. Like I would almost have to do like a Charlie Day corkboard with the red yarn to like make sense of all this.
I would pay to see that.
I might have to. Like this is like dry erase board level, Joe. Like, don't be surprised at work one day if I erase your dry erase board and I start doing this. Like
you want something for Patreon, that's it right there. That's it. We set up a camera and you get like a corkboard and we get you some red string.
Yarn. We get some Post-it notes and some yarn.
Serious, man. You do that, and we'll get like tape and caution tape and everything like that. And you get all crazy. You wear suspenders with a bow tie, and you just go nuts. You just go absolutely nuts. I will do that. I will get you all of the supplies you need. If you
is that the incentive to finally start the Patreon, Chris? Is that
is it right there? All right. I will sit there and I will film it for you.
Oh my God! Because like I not to blow the wad too early, but like. I don't know. Like all of it's here, but it almost doesn't make sense. Cause you know what the best part is too, is that like, it's not just the rise of the resistance. It's also the Halcyon. And like that weirdly is like, it's almost as if like when Rey isn't like fighting Kylo Ren on the Halcyon, like her little, I don't know. Like and there's no explanation as to why she has an outfit on that she couldn't. Where's Kylo Ren's helmet during all this? Like, because I wonder.
Oh man.
Because could an argument be? It can't be. I gotta sit there. Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
That would be great streaming right there. I'm sorry.
Can you believe how like it's I kind of like to see that how seriously Zack takes the sequel trilogy like timeline.
I like the sequel trilogy, man. You can keep the Force Awakens, but it's almost like the sequel trilogy. I look at the sequel trilogy like a bed. The Force Awakens is like the fitted sheet. Like it doesn't do anything for me. Like it's fine. Like I need it for me to put like sheets on it, but like that's fine. The sheet, the Last Jedi is like a really nice like Egyptian, was like the certain fabric that's like 1,000 knit count. I'm like, this is nice. And the Rise of Skywalker is like an Attack of the Clones comforter from 2002. We're like, oh, this is goofy and it's very immature, but I love it because it's weird and it's odd, and that's what it is. Like that is the sequel trilogy to me.
So it's like that that drawing of the horse where like it starts out crappy and gets good, but in this case it starts out crappy, just the middle is good, and then it gets goofy again.
It's not I will say, like, The Force Awakens, I still don't like The Force Awakens. Like, I was thinking about it a couple of days ago, like the first time I ever saw The Force Awakens, and I mentally checked out when like Kylo Ren's like waving his like hand in front of Rey's face strapped to the chair. And I'm like, I still remember that moment in 2015 being so checked out. And yeah, I'm like, God damn it, that's the entire foundation to Reylo. And I'm like, I can't forsake the moment, even though I don't like it. And The Last Jedi is great because we get the closest we'll ever get to a sex scene in Star Wars with fingertip touch and loving. Then you get The Rise of Skywalker. And I should say, there is a production still in here of Kylo Ren meeting Palpy on the, oh God, what's it called from Assassin's Creed? The Animus?
Sure. I never played that.
Sure. Somebody at home, somewhere Zenger is just like perked up and he's like, Zack made a video game faux pas. There's a picture of it like I've never seen before. It reminds me of that time on my like daily, like day of the week or day of the year calendar where there's like a picture of Zori Bliss. And I'm just like, this wasn't in the movie. I've never seen this. Why is there a production still exclusive to like a calendar? Like it's so inexplicable. I'm trying to figure out now if I could break. I gotta see if there's a specific time where it mentions Kylo Ren breaking his helmet, so I can sit there like send this to Pablo Hidalgo and say, explain this to me.
He'll be and you know that he'll do the same thing he did when Yoda's lightsaber reappeared after it got melted. He'll be like, "Shut up, nerds."
No, that was Charles Soule. That was Charles Soule who said, "Shut up, nerds."
All right. Well,
he did the oh God, the Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie thing where like the nerds explaining the continuity error and Homer's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Oh my God. This page from The Last Jedi is called Dyad United. I like the idea of using sequel trilogy or Rise of Skywalker terms when they weren't applicable yet.
Wow.
Ooh, I like that. I gotta find the helmet. There needs to be a certain line item about the helmet.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's going to be real simple. Kylo Ren has got a bunch of helmets. One time he decided to fix one rather than getting a new one out of the closet.
But he left the helmet in the elevator. And that ship was like the light speed sliced in half.
You know why? You know when I stopped caring about that? When I saw a diagram of how much bigger Snoke's dreadnought is supposed to be than a super Star Destroyer. And it's like, it's bigger than the Death Star, basically. It's like, could you guys just chill? It's like when Han Solo's
Found it.
All right.
All right, there is a specific line.
We're cutting you off soon.
No. I did find it. This book has everything. There is one sentence that says, Kylo Ren destroys his mask in a fit of rage.
You know what that is? That's more interesting. It's the aerodynamic. It's the airfield around a cow. That's a cow in a wind tunnel. All right, that's what I equate the sequel trilogy to. It's a cow in a wind tunnel. All right, and if you look up cow in a wind tunnel, you'll be amazed at the aerodynamics of a cow. All right, that's basically what the sequel trilogy is. All right, yes, it's a cow. It's found in nature, but no one really cares about the aerodynamics of a cow. Thank you to my daughter who sent that text to me one day. It actually lit up my life. She understands me.
Wow.
She goes,
I care about the aerodynamics of a space cow.
it's a terrestrial cow. It's not even a space cow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a shack is not very aerodynamic. It's true.
But, oh my God. Sequel trilogy. Marsha.
You saw how Mandalorian season 3 played out. So I don't know, Joe. Have you ever gone to maybe we can talk about something more interesting than the sequel trilogy?
I feel personally attacked.
Have you ever gone to one of these preposterous giant toy shows like the one I just went to in Chicago, where it's like a fairgrounds and there's 5 giant barns full of vendors?
No,
it's crazy. You never went to one of those? Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, this Chicago one is pretty much the biggest one in the country, and it was pretty wild. There was one guy who Zack would have lost it at this guy's booth. I'll have to post a video in the group, but he had every 3 3/4 vehicle ever sealed in box, including the Geonosis Arena. He just had everything in the box in this corner, from 97 until last weekend.
Did he have the Republic gunship, the last one that was the super duper one that has the actual
the vintage collection one, the Attack of the Clones one?
Mm-hmm. One where you can actually put a clone trooper in the little orb, he had that too.
Yeah, he had that, and not only that, but he had there was battle packs that came with the orbs separately that you could put on any gunship, and he had those too. It was crazy.
Sounds like he was a former Kiwi Toys employee.
For a full career of 35 years, yes. It was just everything. The one thing I really wanted to find there that I didn't was I failed to order the Disney Droid Factory B2 Emo online, and that's the only 3 3/4 version of that you're ever going to get, and it's pretty much sold out from Disney. And I thought there'd be one person in the biggest toy show in America that would have it, but no, there wasn't. Tragic.
You would think someone would try to bleed someone for that.
Yeah, because it was $13 retail, and I think it averages $40 now on eBay, which is just criminal, but still cheaper than the Black Series one.
Yeah,
somehow. Yeah, I don't know, but I did my big Star Wars pickup. There was something I teased Zack with a Rebel transport that was loose for $50.
You did,
and it had all the stickers. It was real nice, and Zach was thinking about it, but he's peeling off the ships he doesn't need maybe right now. I don't know what he's doing.
I should say that for like the listeners at home, like I've never felt so barren in my room before in my life. Like I did put up our Lord and Savior, the Rise of Skywalker poster. But
I think what he means is that he's never felt so safe in his room before.
that is true. That is true. But I will say that like I all this time I was afraid like what was going to happen when all the ships came down. Like how many boxes will I need? They all fit into like 3 boxes, like all of them. I will say that the 6-inch First Order TIE Fighter, I don't know what to do with that because one of the wings won't come off. So I have to like really strategically, even when I put that thing together, I remember reading that like it was impossible to get the wings off once you put them on. And my precautions worked on one wing, but not the other. So I don't know how I'm going to make that one work.
Yeah.
But no. Oh God. I guess the thing about the ships is that like, oh God, what was the last good ship we got outside of the Razor Crest? 3 3/4 and the sail barge.
Well,
2.
The Rogue One hover tank's cool. The Rebel transport from Mandalorian is cool. They're smaller, but there's a couple tanks.
Oh,
those are like that's pretty much it for like new designs that aren't reissues. You got those 2, and that's pretty much it. You got the bunkers new, but that's not a ship.
bunker's cool.
Yeah, $100 Canadian for that here. I'm good. I don't need that. But yeah, I don't know. They don't do a whole lot of newly designed ships. I did get a pretty good look at the new N1 at Celebration because they had a couple of them on display in a cabinet where you could get right up to it. And I mean, it looks okay. The paint job doesn't look as good as some of the stuff they did earlier when they relaunched the Vintage Collection, but it's not that big really.
I should say I pre-ordered one of those. Like I'm excited for that. Like I hope it has the interchangeable like R5 like spot. I know
it does. There's a picture of R5 in it on the box. So basically there's the R5 coming out that you'll be able to pop the head off and just put on there.
Okay.
You can't put him inside it. Like they made like the 2011 N1, you could actually put an R2 unit physically in it.
Oh.
This you're just be able to pop the head on top.
Are you sure? Because like I know even with the candy corn colored Poe Dameron X-Wing, you can put like both BB-8 and R2 into there. And there's like different little things you put on top of it to make it like more but aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, but the form factor of the N1 is such that an R2 unit could not actually fit in it.
Oh.
It makes actually no sense. In fact, there's even the cross sections book from back in 99 showed that when an R2 unit goes in an N1, it actually removes his head and puts his head up top, and the body of him stays lower in the ship.
Really?
That's a cross sections book.
Interesting. I never knew
But
that.
yeah.
I never knew that. That's fascinating. The more you know.
Yeah, but in the 2011 version, he just sits in sideways, so his legs aren't too far on the sides for the ship. But yeah, so that's kind of exciting, and it's probably a good time to mention that the rumors have been going around out there, but I'm gonna personally guarantee that the next HasLab is gonna be the Ghost, and hopefully that gets announced like 2 days after we post this episode. If any of you are still there listening after Zach was reading the Timelines book sequel trilogy stuff for like half an hour.
Oh, I'm happy. Am I the only person that likes the sequel trilogy? Am I the only person? There's stuff in the book about Resistance. Right next to the Halcyon, they talk about Resistance. And I'm like, I remember Resistance. This is a thing that existed for 2 years.
You know what's weird? The place where I see the most sequel trilogy support online is a Facebook group called Star Wars Memes. And I think it's because the anti-sequel trilogy memes in there are just so savage that people who just like it a little bit always post these things where they're like, guess what? Rey's still canon. It's not going to change anytime soon. I'm leaving this group because you guys are all toxic. And I see a bunch of those. So like that's where I see all the sequel trilogy support, the Star Wars Memes on Facebook, which is a pretty savage group.
Oh God! Of course, that gets the audible laugh out of Joe.
Yeah, you just see little people just running away, and because their feelings are hurt so much, they can't handle the memes. Yeah.
So, is there anything? Okay, so I guess we should talk about the movie announcements. What are our odds that any of these come to fruition? I know, Chris, you believe that Mandoverse is going to happen. But Joe, what do you think? What are our betting odds on getting any Star Wars movie for the rest of this decade?
Rest of this decade?
Yes.
Oh, I think from what I've seen online, Marvel is tapping out. I think that after this run of movies, that Marvel is going to be basically, if Deadpool and the X-Men don't save it, then it's basically going to teeter out, and you're going to go basically back to Star Wars, where it's going to be hot and heavy, because that's the only other thing that's going to do it. Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't do that hot in the theaters. You have things that are going on with Jonathan Majors, which is supposed to be the overarching big baddie. So it's on a decline right now. Comic book movies, anyway, it's like a bad taste in people's mouth. But Disney has Star Wars and always lean back on. But they'd have to do it in a different way, where it's more appealing to a broader section. They're going to have to do more episodic, like you did in the original trilogy, and not one of these catch-alls. But you'll see that happen after the Mandoverse movie. I don't think you're going to see anything before the Mandoverse movie. I would say probably 5 years from now, that's going to be coming out. They're going to try and milk it for what it's worth.
Like I said, apparently the rumor mill is that the Rey movie is the one they want for the end of 2025.
I think that's too soon.
That's what I mean. I don't know how you do the not episode 10 6 years after that. Like that seems like, again, you got to give Rey time to kind of rejuvenate. Like, we'll see that character again.
Haven't you heard that it takes place 15 years after the rise of Skywalker? I don't know what the source on that is, but I see it all over the place.
But even still, like, the only time I could see whatever the hell they're going to call this, coming out like in 2029, like 10 years, much like they did with Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens 10 years later. I could see them doing something like that. But I think 6 years later, and to go right, you left off with Rey, you go right back to Rey. I get it. Like, she was the headline of a, $4 billion sequel trilogy. I get it makes financial sense. It's the Bob Iger thing of like, oh, we're going to do Toy Story 5, Frozen 3, Zootopia 2. Like, I get it. It's going back to the well. But I don't think that works. It'll make money, but it's going to be like Rise of Skywalker money, not Force Awakens money.
The only way that something like that would work, even in a concept like that, is if she was the only carryover character and it went to another generation of people to tell a story for it.
It's too early for that, though. That's the thing, man. She's going to be the main character.
She's going to be the main character, and you're going to have some of the people that were in Rise of Skywalker and that trilogy. You're going to have them carry over to it, and that's going to just crush it. It's too soon.
Yeah, well, if John Boyega makes an appearance, he's officially lost all of his cred because he just talks so much crap, and he's just like, "Yeah, they're never going to Disney Plus me. Yeah. It's not going to happen, dudes." It's like, all right, we'll see what happens when the offer comes in.
The reason why they're not going to Disney Plus him is because who wants to see him?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, man. Can you believe that? Finn didn't even get one action figure for Rise of Skywalker in any scale.
He did. The Galaxy of Heroes one, like the weird 5-inch cartoon ones.
That doesn't count.
It is an action figure, Chris. It's not a good action figure, but it's still an action figure nonetheless.
No, they have to stop with going into the well with that. They got to tell an original story.
Yeah.
It's time that they do it. They got to retool. They got to do something else. So that's why one of the movie announcements that I saw that was pretty good. If they start diving into the well of the hyperspace war, I think that's their next key. Not many people know about that. And then you could sit there and turn it on a dime. You could sit there and put a bunch of unknowns in it. Your price per movie for actors is not going to be that high. You have a couple big names in supporting roles, and then you be able to kill it with that. And then you could set up a whole bunch of different Disney Plus shows based off the movies, and then have an overarching one. I think that's going to be a gold mine for them, because you do the hyperspace wars, that would be killer right there. And that would go right into the forming of the Jedi Order. how they were, the old Skywalkers were the people that would be able to use the Force and find the hyperspace lanes and all that crazy stuff.
But that's the weird thing though about Star Wars though, is that like, is the fan base willing to accept? By fan base, I mean the people who are the most vocal. Again, your oh god, not your professional fans, but at this point, I don't even know what that means anymore. But are they going to allow for something that's not X-wings and TIE fighters?
You gotta be Tony Gilroy in this, man. You gotta be Tony Gilroy, and you gotta be like, you know what? This is my story. I'm telling it the way I am, and this is be damned with all of you. Either you like it or you don't. I'm sitting here and going to tell you a good story. I'm not going to sit there and placate to people. And, that's why Andor was such a fascinating show, because he had a story in his mind. They wanted 5 seasons of it. He was like, I'll do 2. And he condensed the story, and boom, there you go. Here it is, right here. You don't need anything else.
Yeah, you don't got room for Lizzo episodes in 2 seasons. Man.
Exactly. Why give yourself that? Because if you expand it like that, then all you're going to do is you're going to get higher up interference in it. And that's bad right now. That's one of the things that stopped, well, not only that in the time period that it was made, but the original trilogy. I hate to keep saying, like, not my trilogy, but it's true. You have, when Lucas had control of it, he didn't have any higher up saying, we want more of this, and we want more of that, and we want more of this, and we're going to have reshoots for this, and we're going to have... They didn't have that. He had to stay within budget, and he was the main man. And that's where it needs to come to right now. There's too many people with too much input. They don't know what the source content is, and they need to just go back to its roots. I would be very surprised if Disney keeps Star Wars.
Now that's an audacious claim right there.
Watch, I guarantee you within the next 5 to 7 years, Elon Musk will pick it up.
Elon Musk buys Star Wars after Twitter.
Think about it. And those movies will probably be kick-ass. If someone else that has a boatload of money says, hey, I'll give you $4 billion for Star Wars, and Disney's like, yep, we'll do it. We'll take it.
I mean, like, I can't believe I'm saying it, but like, I think I really sort of am into the idea of this not episode 10, because like, it shouldn't be anything quite like the sequel trilogy. And also it doesn't have a sort of a looming narrative that it has to sync up with. Like, it pains me when they pepper in these sequel trilogy things to the Mandalorian, because it's like, oh my God, it's like 25 years off. You just don't know when you'll have another chance to pepper in these little Easter eggs. So you're just doing it now. And it's like, it's really not pertinent to the story whatsoever. And the idea that Mandalorian is directly involved in like all these things setting up the First Order, like it's just, it's so tangential that it just doesn't seem to fit in his sort of story, because he's literally just like Joe Mandalorian, and it turns out he was like integrally involved in events that are related to the Skywalker saga and all that. It's just like it seems like they're bending over backwards to sync it up, in my opinion. And maybe that sort of stuff belongs more in the Ahsoka show, just because she's like sort of part of the like primary narrative, if you were going to call it that. But I like this episode 10 because you have just no idea where it's going. You know what I mean? Like, it could, like, literally anything could happen, and that is increasingly rare in Star Wars. I like the idea of pushing the end of the timeline forward, and I wouldn't be mad if that's the only content we got, honestly, if it just carried on moving in that direction, just because I literally feel pain in the Ahsoka trailer when I hear that droid and Ahsoka be like, yeah, maybe we should start up the Jedi Order again. Oh yeah, we all saw how that turned out. Clearly they didn't even have 2 sticks rubbing together by the time Rey started using the Force. Whatever happens, it blows up in their faces, and Ahsoka might even get killed in that situation, because she's sort of a Force ghost by the end of totally canon Rise of Skywalker. So like, it's really just like, it pains me when you see these competent characters trying to start up the Jedi Order, and that it doesn't work out. So it's like, how long are we going to spin this tire that we know where it ends?
Well, what they're doing is, instead of fixing a loose end. All they're doing is creating more of them. Because in the original trilogy, no one knew who Ahsoka was. In the sequel trilogy, no one knew who Din Djarin was. He wasn't mentioned. He wasn't this. He wasn't that. How important was he, and how can he be in all these events if he's not even in it? That's why when it was originally billed, The Mandalorian, okay, it's a Western in space. He's going to sit there and he's going to do this. Okay, you know what? It's set in the Star Wars universe. Has nothing to do with main characters. But guess what? They had to bring out Luke Skywalker in season 2. They had to sync up that. They had to put a Baby Yoda in it. Why? Because it was, you know what? Yeah, it was cool. Baby Yoda was in it. But now, where is he in the sequel trilogy?
Yeah, well, get ready because episode 10 is gonna be Rey and Baby Yoda as a buddy cop film.
What is it going to do? They're going to do the special editions of Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and what are they going to do? Redub whoever voices Grogu's voice into The Last Skywalker? That's what they're going to do.
Din Djarin, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get to you're going to be start episode 10. Din Djarin's going to be like 70 years old. And he's, more than that, like 100 by then. He's going to be like just about to kick the bucket. Baby Yoda is going to be like the human equivalent of a 5-year-old. Like he'll be talking. He'll be awkward looking as hell. And, he's going to Din is sort of going to pass away, and Baby Yoda is going to be Rey Skywalker's new little buddy for the start of the Jedi Order. That's what's going to happen.
That's all I can say.
Zack, I was just telling Joe how Baby Yoda is going to be Rey's new Padawan.
Oh, 100%. That's going to be their marketing angle. It's going to be the first time he talks. It's like, do you want to be there for the big reveal of Big Whiskey's voice?
It's going to be recorded Gilbert Gottfried.
Re-speatured Gilbert Gottfried. Yeah.
Yeah, even worse. Ultron Gilbert Gottfried.
Grave.
There we go. Can you believe, Ray?
That was not bad. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm more excited for that episode 10. I don't know what else we got to cover here. You guys, like, honestly, there's just been so much that's happened since we last recorded. Like,
everything has happened and nothing has happened.
Exactly.
Well, it's all ancillary stuff that's happened. Like, can you believe, Zack, the audacity of these guys? These Hasbro guys, they have Jabba's palace with Jabba on display at Celebration. I ordered it before the Anaheim Celebration, where they also had it on display. They still haven't shipped it yet. This is criminal activity at this point, and they have it set up with Jabba, which you can't buy a Jabba, and they have a bunch of characters in there that you also can't buy.
I thought Jabba's coming out soon. Like
Black Series.
It's a Black Series?
Yeah, the one with Salacious Crumb and like part of his throne. Yeah.
Really?
And by the way, it's the exact part of the throne that you'd need for your Boba Fett's throne room to finish off Jabba. But no, that is a Black Series product.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, what's wrong with these people, right? That's crazy. But I think they'll do it. Because like they're, you got to be able to sell more stuff to set up your Jabba's throne room. But yeah, they had that looking beautiful with a bunch of random figures that you can't buy anymore. They even had a vintage 8D8 from 1983 in this Jabba display at a Celebration. And I feel like there's probably at least one newer 8D8 you could get from like 90s Power of the Force. So, but they don't know their stuff, man. They're only Hasbro. They only made that 8D8 that they didn't have. But it looked cool though. I mean, I'm excited for that. I got to pick up one of those Tauntaun and Jerba Han Carbonite walls because I never got one of those because I thought they would never build any more of Jabba's palace out. So I got to find one of those now.
After you find B2 Emo.
Yeah. Well, they had some at of course, a bunch of people had that Han Carbonite set at the Chicago Toy Show, but they were wanting it was like sealed with the 2 carded figures and they were wanting like $70 for it. And it's like,
didn't that like retail for like 40?
Yeah. I mean, and there's a ton of them out there. I don't even care if it has the reuse in there or not. I'll find a different reuse. They're a dime a dozen. I just need the wall. Finished. And the funniest thing about it is like the wall texture is like different than the throne room that's coming out. It's like you guys had one job to like sync up the two walls on this Jabba palace, but you use different plastics, but whatever, it's still cool.
See, and that's the one thing I don't get. Working where I did years and years and years ago, it was always flooded with that stuff. Flooded. Like we had bins and bins and bins and bins of that stuff, and now they're not even doing anything with it. That there's hardly any figures. There's no action going anywhere. They're pre-ordering figures, and they're not even.
Dude, I went to Toys R Us like 2 days ago, and like, first of all, they were playing the music from the end of Aliens, where the place goes nuclear. They were playing that at Toys R Us, which is freaking awesome. And there was they had the bunker, they had the new ATST reissue, they had a bunch of new figures. It was awesome.
But stateside, we have nothing like that here. Nothing.
Toys R Us is even, they're starting to get in that like Kenner Colors Boba Fett repaint if you're into that sort of self-torture.
But it's getting to the point where you can't even buy it on the street like that. You got to go online. You got to go on eBay. You got to do these stupid pre-orders in order to get something like that.
Oh man, and the other, I don't know if you're Zach. I don't know if you started getting any of those the like micro Galaxy Squadron ships. That's probably too much of a new rabbit hole for you. You already have 50 ships for 3 3/4. You can't start doing that.
Exactly, 3 3/4 or bust, man. Like I will say, but like going to Joe's point about buying this stuff, like because Joe and I have been talking about like the Flash a lot lately. Like it was hard. It's like almost impossible unless you go to eBay route right now to get the McFarlane Multiverse Keaton Batman from the Flash. But Joe, you know who's carrying a lot of this stuff? Like in real life, the Macy's Toys R Us section.
Really?
I keep seeing on social media all these pictures of like people finding like the Keaton Batmobile from the Flash, all these figures at the Macy's, like Toys R Us like area. And that's what it is. Like
that is that the Batmobile that like Amazon canceled on everybody and people are mad about it?
Most likely. I don't know that specific circumstance, but if I had to guess, I'd say yes. But that's what I mean. Like Joe's got a point. Like good old in America, like if you want toys, like even today I went to Target and like they literally had like 3 of like the retro Return of the Jedi Lukes, a Wicket on a Black Series Wicket, a Black Series Han from Return of the Jedi, and that was kind of it. And like a Bo-Katan helmet, like that is the extent of your Star Wars toy selection. And like to buy something off the shelf.
That Black Series Wicket is cool, but it doesn't have foot holes, which it should be illegal.
Oh, they did have the vintage collection Dark Trooper for like $28.
And what's the other thing about that too? I'm sitting there looking at these damn toys nowadays. I went into thinking it was like $28 for a friggin' 3 3/4 or even a 6-inch action figure. Good Lord,
dude! The sealed Geonosis Arena was $150.
Really?
I only didn't buy it because of like car space.
I would buy it simply for the box. It came in the box for $100. I've been like. It's tempting.
I never even saw that when that came out. Like I had some of those figures. I had no idea that was ever made. Like till like 10 years later.
I can still remember the day I got that. It was such a cool occasion because like it was like again, play sets were everything back in the day because like you brought the adventure home with you.
I still have my Dagobah playset.
Is the spongy piece still good, Joe?
No, it wouldn't.
Oh my God.
R2 fell in that swamp a lot.
Dude, those vintage sponges, man. There was some in the Death Star like garbage compactor, and then there was like their dumbest thing, which if you look on the Knights of Vader Instagram, I posted some clips from the Chicago Toy Show. One of the funniest like vintage like Kenner things is like there's like this Chewbacca bandolier that kids could wear and like clip their figures into it and be like a giant dork. And there's like a picture of this like little like ginger kid like smiling wearing it on the box, and it's like super funny. I posted it on the Instagram, and like that thing, like I have one of those where the foam has like become like radioactive. Like it's just like it looks like venom. It's like it's sludging out of there, and like I put it in like a plastic bag inside the box so it doesn't like ruin the box. But like that stuff's just decaying at an alarming rate, and we should really probably just hose it off of like all of our collectibles so it doesn't ruin them. But that's how crazy like Star Wars collectors will get mad at you if you try and resell something that you like hose off the foam. Like they're elitist, man.
What was it?
I don't know.
I sold on eBay one time a medical tricorder from the Next Generation, brand new in a box. And the tagline was "never opened." And the guy messaged me, the battery was leaking in the box. I was like, yeah, because it said "never opened."
You weren't supposed to open it, guy.
Exactly. It's like, come on. When it says "never opened," factory
you opened
sealed.
sealed Star Trek merchandise. How could you do that?
I was like, get new batteries then. File the damn thing. You're good.
That's what happens. That's why you should not include batteries.
I came with it. I bought it on clearance for $4. I sold it for $150, and the guy bought it. Okay, it's sealed.
Yeah. I wish I had more. Like, I'm trying to think of silly stuff that happened at Celebration that would amuse you guys. Like,
Chris made a probe droid.
Yeah, look, some guy built like a beautiful probe droid that they were like driving around on a platform, and like that little clip on our Instagram has done really well. Oddly, it still gets like 10 likes a day and I posted it like a couple weeks ago at this point. All the sort of vintage collectors always do this thing they call like room sales or lobby sales at like the main hotel they're at, and like basically like all these old vintage collectors like jump upon this unsuspecting hotel and like start selling stuff in the hallways, literally like just piling stuff out there. And like I was sitting beside this like very inebriated man who had a graded Vlix. And if you don't know what Vlix is the very last vintage Star Wars figure that was gonna come out but didn't, and only got released in Brazil. And he's a henchman from the Droids cartoon, and he looks very stupid, but he is the most desirable Star Wars figure because he never actually got released. And this guy had a graded Kenner Vlix, which is like a prototype for the US release, which never came out. And he was sitting there, and he said, earlier tonight I turned down a 30,000 US offer on this. I'm looking for 50. And he had a couple people come by and like haggle with him a little bit, but it's just like, like this guy was really drunk. He had this graded figure just sitting on this hotel table, like 50 people all around picking it up, scratching up the graded case. And it's like, I don't know if it's worth 50 G's, but like he turned down a 30 grand offer that day for like this non-character. That was just weird to see, man. I don't know. Kenner Vlix. He's like a blue fat alien.
That's when you sit there and give him some more beer. You're like, I got a 6-pack. How does that?
Think about how much beer you could buy instead of Kenner Vlix.
Be like, listen, I got a 12-pack here. Yeah, I'll give you $30 for that Vlix. Okay.
But these graded cases, like they scratch up real easy, and you have all these drunk guys like manhandling it and picking it up, and he was really not much bothered. I don't know. I guess the cost of regrading it is insignificant next to buying it, so not a big deal, I guess.
The cost of regrading it is insignificant to the power of the Force.
Clearly. Yeah, it's about, it's something on the order of 1% of the cost of buying it. So, whatever. I think that maybe they charge you a little more for values, like with items with values that high, but not significantly.
It's definitely something you got to insure when you ship it out.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to tell on yourself, so you pay like thousands in taxes and stuff. Yeah, but if it gets when you buy and sell that stuff. But clearly that was what was happening in these lobby sales, and there weren't just like ungodly wads of cash being exchanged all over the place. But and then there's other weird stuff, like because the celebration was in London, a lot of the like generic like giveaways and swag are like selling for like quite a bit on eBay, because like, as you guys know, Americans like don't like leaving America. So like, because you guys have such a vast geographical range that like, you're like, why do I need to leave America? I have all these different environments I can go to here without needing to renew my passport. And so like, unlike Anaheim, like a lot of the giveaways and stuff are in pretty high demand. Like I went to this one panel that was just like a couple of artists who like do poster designs. Like they gave away this Last Jedi unused teaser poster as an 11x17 of like the lightsaber being like handed from Rey to Luke, which, you know, I can't look at it knowing what happens 2 seconds later, but this is a really hot commodity. Like this poster I saw selling for like hundreds of dollars, and it's like an 11x17 that was just given away at this panel. It's crazy. It's officially licensed, I guess, like most of the giveaways are, but you know, you just didn't see that kind of stuff happening from Anaheim just because it was so much more abundant, I guess.
I'm intrigued. I didn't hear about this. It's okay. So like,
hopefully you don't want it, Zach, because I might have just sold the 2 that I had.
that's fine. I just want to know what it looks like.
If you search maybe like poster panel, Celebration London poster.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do. 2023.
It's like blue, and it's just the lightsaber being handed off.
Okay, I see a Visions poster, Mandalorian season 3 poster. A lot of like this Death Star like poster design. Mandalorian. Okay, I'm gonna try the sold list.
I'll find it for you. You guys talk about something else.
Sure. So, okay, Chris, this is a good one for you while you're looking at this. So in my local area, I came across, I posted this in the Facebook group, was my local like record store that does like used movies, used records, Laserdisc, video games, kind of catch all for everything. They had the Super 7 2001 figures, which was cool. They're selling a sealed copy of The Empire Strikes Back from 1987 for $1,500. How ludicrous. It's not graded. It's just sealed. How ludicrous is that?
You're saying VHS?
Yes, sealed.
I think I have one. I don't know. It's pretty weird. I wonder if it's actually the first version or not.
That's the thing. If 1987, I don't think is an initial release.
No, because I have a store display for the Return of the Jedi release, and that says 85.
That's what I mean. So I think again, because the box does say, because it's like, like 10 years of celebrating the saga, and like these were released on VHS well before 87.
Oh yeah. Well, it wasn't contemporaneous with the movie, but it was definitely by 85 for sure. Yeah.
I can't find this poster on eBay.
Yeah, I'm working on it. You asked me something. Ask Joe something.
Joe's holding up VHSs to the camera. Those are the special editions, aren't they? Right, Chris?
I can't see it, Zach.
Those are the special editions. No. Wait, maybe not. Oh, sealed.
Yeah, sealed.
Yeah, but I think that's the special editions. Oh, that's a sin. Like you should like I'll pay you to throw it out.
It's the special editions.
Joe, it worked today. I was showing everybody that the different because obviously we should say this weekend as well is the re-release of the Return of the Jedi into theaters, and everybody kept asking, "Will you go see it?" And I said no. Yeah. Had to go into a 15-minute dissertation about Sty Snoodles and Jiao Yaoza. Everyone just starts looking at me, being like, "What difference does this make?" And I'm like, "If this doesn't bother you, don't get me started on no." And then, of course, Hayden Christensen being put in, like trying to explain to people Sebastian Shaw. I'm like,
yes.
It's like, and it's like that meme of like Adam Sandler chasing like the woman on the set of Uncut Gems. It's like somebody asked me about Return of the Jedi re-release, and me explaining to them Sebastian Shaw is the true redemption of Anakin Skywalker, not Hayden Christensen. Like I don't get it.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
But even too, I will say about like the thing about Disney re-releasing Jedi right now is like, I know why they're not doing it in May, because obviously that's like your summer movie season. But two, they're not even releasing it like in high, like quality formats, like no IMAX, no Dolby, no really premiere quality showings. It's literally just like you're watching the Disney Plus version for $16 in the theater. So I get if you've never seen a Star Wars before in the theater, it could be exciting. But you're going to see it on a screen that's best slightly above like home video viewing.
Yeah.
And so again, it's novel to see Star Wars in the theater. As someone who's done that once, I really would never do it again because there's nothing exciting about it. Like if you're not seeing it in in a presentation that instead of saying premium format, I probably should say premium presentation. And I'm just like, I don't get it. Like they're just putting it into theaters for the sake of putting it into theaters. They're not doing it for any reason.
It's a cash grab.
But it's not even like a good cash grab. Like, what incentive is there?
It's still gonna grab people to go in there.
It will. Like, I get when they re-released Empire during the pandemic, like it made sense, especially when Hollywood was just like regurgitating anything they could that could get people to go to the theaters. But like, I don't know. Like, I keep trying to think of a reason why I want to see Jedi in theaters this weekend, and I'm like, I'd rather sit at home and watch it. Even if I wasn't somebody who was so beholden to Star Wars as an intellectual property, like, what incentive is it to see it this weekend and not watch it on Disney Plus? It's more of an incentive to buy Disney Plus than it is to go see it in a theater.
I'm going to do it just because it's loud and quiet in the room. Just because it's
your living room is loud and quiet.
No, it's just an optimal viewing experience. I'm just going to do it.
Chris. Maybe Canada has better theaters than the U.S.
I would be surprised to see how many people actually do show up.
Joe, you want to go do Joe? I'm going to start checking like Fandango and see how many tickets are sold for tomorrow night.
There you go.
Yeah, well, if there's I think there's one theater in Toronto playing it, and I might go tomorrow night.
That's Chris. That's kind of cool. I like that poster. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, this is a teaser poster
Really?
that was unused for The Last Jedi.
Really?
That, Zack's looking at, and it's just Rey handing Luke the lightsaber, and it was given out at the poster panel, and I had two, and they're probably currently on eBay.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's neat. I've never seen that before.
It's all right.
It's cool. Like it has like that Drew Struzan flair to it. Like I can get behind that.
This guy's Paul Shipper. He's basically a professional Drew Struzan impersonator for Lucasfilm.
That's what I mean. So like it gets a pass. Like I'm intrigued. Like it's better than the teaser poster they eventually went with.
Yeah, no shade. In the panel, he basically identified himself as the current Drew Struzan impersonator for Lucasfilm.
Did he do the Indiana Jones 5 poster? The one they released a couple weeks ago that looks like very Drew Struzan-y?
I don't think he did, but
really,
I don't think he did the season 3 Picard poster. looks like a Drew Struzan, but yeah, I don't know. If you look him up on Facebook, he posts like everything. He
okay.
It's amazing how much he does, considering it's like there's a lot of stuff out there. You'd think that they would. You think there'd be a lot more cooks in the kitchen, but this guy does a lot of good work.
To go back real quick, I'm looking at the theater showings for Return of the Jedi tomorrow. It's only playing it 3 times: 1:25, 4:50, and 8 p.m. The 1:25 has no seats sold. 4:50 has probably about 10 seats sold. The 8 o'clock, the majority of the good seats, like I would say, it's at least a third, if not half full. And this is like middle of nowheresville, New York, right, Joe?
That's it. That's podunk.
It really is. I'm curious. Let's see what Saturday is. I'm just curious. Let's see. What's Saturday look like? Saturday. Okay. Saturday has about like 10 seats at 1, couple seats at 5 o'clock, and 8 o'clock has like 3 seats. So, okay. So like, interesting. I wonder like,
but that's the thing too, is, back in the day, we didn't have phones where we could sit there and pick our seats. You would actually have to go to the box office and sit there and hope you don't miss your show, and you could still get your popcorn. The struggle was real. You had to make sure you were punctual or you weren't watching the movie.
Wow. Even looking at I should say a correction on air. In one of I think it was in Chris and I's Avatar 2 discussion, I said that Titanic was not being released in Dolby 3D. That is wrong. I did see it in Dolby 3D, and it's probably the greatest presentation I'll ever see Titanic in. And I have to live with the fact that every subsequent viewing of that film will be in a subpar presentation. But when I'm not wallowing in that very specific sorrow, the 8 p.m. for that same theater, this is not Dolby, but the same theater complex for Jedi, it's 8 o'clock again tomorrow. Like every good seat is gone.
For Jedi?
Like, yeah.
Nice.
Like it looks like it's probably going to have a really good Friday night. Like not like great by like Super Mario Brothers or just like John Wick standards. I mean, for a re-release, they'll probably have a really good Friday night, and they'll probably peter out by Saturday afternoon.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just going to see it because it will be like mildly amusing. Like, that is like, it's the greatest space battle ever done on film, guys. Like you got to appreciate Return of the Jedi. It's like there's no CGI in that space battle. You understand that, right? Like not any. And And the attack on the second Death Star was just heavily referenced in Picard season 3, as Data flies the Enterprise directly into the core of the Borg cube to shoot its main reactor. And right before he flies into it, he quotes Lando and says, "Here goes nothing." It's something else, man. They're quoting Star Wars and Star Trek and referencing the attack on the second Death Star, because that's how iconic it is compared to nonsense that we get these days. So, don't let Zack ruin your fun. If you want to go see Jedi Special Edition in theaters, do that. And
Go.
Because I don't mind, because I have the real version as well.
Go petition your local theaters for a re-release of The Rise of Skywalker. Let's give the money where it's earned. Let's have somehow Palpatine was returned.
Waiting for the special edition on that one. See how well.
Me too. Me too, man. 3 years, we still haven't gotten any deleted scenes. What the heck?
It's because there's no deleted scenes. Everything.
Can you imagine if there was like a reactionary, like how like when everyone didn't like Rose in episode 9, they're just like, "Sorry, Rose, Leia needs you to stick around here, even though she's literally not alive anymore. You go, you touch that computer while we go have an adventure." Imagine if they did something where like they sort of at the first like 5 minutes of this episode 10, they make you think Palpatine like is coming back, but it's actually just like one of those Sentinels, and then it just gets like stomped
within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's just like, oh no, they were not. It's just like a flip off to JJ or something. Like, just like, oh yeah, we're not going to do that. That's stupid.
So no,
that would be so worth it. That would be great.
Yeah,
it begins the same way Force Awakens began. This will begin to make things right.
Even righter than last time. Yeah. The one other thing I wanted to point out that I enjoyed the hell out of like this week is like this new comic is like Star Wars Ewoks, and like it's crazy, and you should get it because like look at this cover with like this painting of an Ewok with like fire in his eyes. He looks like he's gonna cannibalize you. That's great. And like it's basically like Ewok like campfire stories, and in one of them like an Ewok gets hunted by a Gorax and it just ends with him being eaten.
Great. That's a great way to end the show.
So you should go buy that comic while it's out, because that the primary cover is a thing of beauty. Anyways.
Sure. On that note, so concludes this episode of Knights of Vader, a Star Wars podcast. Perfect way to ring this episode out, right, Joe?
That's right.
Check out the Facebook group, Knights of Vader on Facebook. Check out the Instagram at KOV Podcast. If you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on Spotify, iTunes. Thank you for the occasional Spotify rate. It always is appreciated. Thank you to An Insperiority Complex for providing our theme song. Check out the show notes to hear more from them. If you want to hear more from me, I am on Instagram at Rogue Knight, Twitter sometimes, I think at Cinemoddities, because even Elon will not give me back my OG Twitter handle. But when Elon is not producing Star Wars films in 10 years from now, Chris, where can people find you?
All right. Well, it's just due to the time we're putting this out, if nerdy collecting related panels from Celebration appeal to you, in the coming weeks you'll be able to see the 20 collecting track collectors stage panels that I filmed at Celebration London. If you search collecting track on YouTube, you'll see those sort of popping up there one at a time, and you can see this poster panel where they gave away this Last Jedi art that excites Zack. So other than that, you can find me at the Chris Porteous on Instagram, and like Zack said, go follow at KOV Podcast on Instagram to see some cool little clips from Celebration and the Chicago Toy Show.
Joe, when you are not able to buy Star Wars toys for $28, where can people find you?
On the corner trying to beg for change so I can get the $28 Star Wars figures. No, you could listen to Wheel of Convo with Joe and Corey, or Corey and Joe. I forgot which one was first, but we're going to be taping our last episode of our season, and we're ending our year on the air. So we're going to be resetting the wheel. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. The most recent one, we actually got banned in Russia because I used the final countdown. So it was that's a high point in our show, but yeah, Wheel of Convo on all major podcasting sites with the exception of iTunes. because I won't give them a credit card.
I have so many questions right now regarding that comment, but we'll save that for next week. Alrighty, folks. Good night, but not goodbye. And as always, may the force be with you.